All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Juicy Bullet Film Reviews. It has been a while.
It's been a long while.
So, today we are reviewing a movie called Boss Level. I've forgotten the last name of the director. It is written on the bottom of your screen here. It's Joe something or other. I forgot. I can't tab out either, and I only have so much information on this screen. Oh, Joe Carnahan. Okay, Joe Carnahan. There you go. And it is starring Frank Grillo, Mel Gibson, and Naomi Watts. Yeah. So even just there, I was like, this is probably going to be pretty good. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of terrible Mel Gibson movies, and Naomi Watts is in it, so at least there's something nice to look at in here.
Don't forget Kim Jong.
Yes! I fucking love Ken Jeong. You told me about the movie, I looked into it, I saw Ken Jeong's name on the list, and I was immediately like, I'm in it, I'm in here. I'm here for it. I love Ken Jeong. He's one of my favorite actors ever. He's so funny. For those of you who may not be super familiar with who Ken Jeong is, he's the naked Asian guy from the Hangover movies. And a lot of other stuff. He also played as the Spanish teacher in Community, which was also a really funny role for him.
When I told you to watch this movie today, I didn't even tell you who was in the movie. I felt like I'd just leave that as a surprise.
Yeah, no. He said we could either do Stardew Valley or a film review. And I was like, what movie do you have in mind? He said this one. That's all he said was Boss Level. So it's on Hulu. So I looked it up, saw the list of names, and I was like, I'm watching this right now. I'm not even going to wait. So I did. And it was really, really good. So he actually watched the movie like a couple of days ago. I just watched it today. So he doesn't have notes. And I do. And just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, this movie was so good that at parts I forgot that I was supposed to be taking notes to remind myself of things. Because I got so invested in just watching the movie that I completely forgot I even had a notepad in my lap. So it was really good. So I guess we should probably explain the premise of the film a little bit. So it's sort of like a Groundhog's Day sort of situation where he's trying to figure out what's going on, but he's also repeating the same day over and over and over and over again and dying at the end of every single one of them. And he's trying to figure out how to fix it, and obviously eventually does. Sort of. That's a whole nother... That's a conversation for the end of this review. So my first note was actually... Opening imagery is pretty powerful. Then it was almost comical. I didn't realize when I first started the movie that it was going to be as funny as it was. Because it described itself as an action thriller. So I wasn't expecting as much comedy as there was. But it got really comical really fast. Oh. And watching him avoid that machete-wielding maniac in his apartment was a thing of beauty, honestly. So I was like, okay, this is the beginning of the movie. Is he already stuck in a time loop? Or?
I love how, at the beginning of the movie, he is talking to the audience like he would in a Deadpool movie.
Yes.
This movie gave me so many Deadpool vibes that it was just great.
Yes, the main character in the film is narrating the film the whole time. And it is very, very similar to the way that they do it in Deadpool. Well, the Deadpool movies, which apparently they're making a third one. I just saw a trailer uploaded to YouTube earlier today. So, but that's a story for another day. Today we're talking about boss level.
Down in the comments if you want us to review Deadpool 3 when it comes out.
We probably will anyway, but, you know. I saw the other two. They were phenomenal. I'm totally down to watch the third one.
Same.
My second note actually just ties into the same thing we've already been talking about. I love the narration and the humor. The humor was exactly like my sense of humor. It was absolutely perfect. And it wasn't like in-your-face attempts at humor either. It was just like backhanded remarks and like things that the character in narration almost mumbles. It was perfect. It was the perfect use of narration, in my opinion.
I love how he names his killers because he never gets a chance to actually talk to them.
Yeah. At the beginning of the movie, he's already gone through... I think he said he was on, like, day 141 or something like that. So he's already been killed 140 times by all these different people. He has no idea what their names are, so he just gives them a nickname.
There's like 10 plus killers.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of them. One of them happens to be a midget with bombs, which was probably my favorite one.
So, my favorite one is not who you would think it would be, only for the comical effect of how she died. Pam.
Yes. I have a couple of notes in there about that scene.
We'll get to that.
It was a beautiful scene. I loved it so much.
But, so, yeah, we digress. Character, he's dying all these times, and he doesn't know why. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the day before, and he is meeting his ex-lover. I don't think they ever got married. But I want to say ex-lover because his son doesn't know that he's his son. Mm-hmm. And right off the bat, you have Mel Gibson as the main bad guy.
Who nailed it, by the way.
With his...
I said who nailed it, by the way.
Oh, yeah, he nailed it.
Yeah.
He totally did. With his bald-headed security guard.
Yeah.
And then after that night of him being with his ex-lover, and obviously she's in distress, and she takes his DNA and obviously puts him in this time loop, trying to stop her corrupted boss, which is Mel Gibson.
Unlike most other movies similar to this one, it's nothing magical. It's something scientific that creates the loop, which was kind of neat. I like that they incorporated that into something that could... Well, they made it something that could theoretically actually be possible. And made it a very, very essential part of not just his story, but every character's story. It was integral to the entirety of the story. Okay.
But no. It was definitely a nice change of pace because magic is... I love the idea of things being caused by magic because I'm such a nerd.
Yeah, same.
But But magic is overdone in a lot of films, so the fact that they put a technical twist on it, I liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My next note is simply, I fucking love Ken Jeong. When he gets to the bar, and I love Ken Jeong so much. He's so funny. So talented.
I can't remember the name of the drink. That
Fuck.
But it's Japanese alcohol.
It was like Genshi or something like that. It was definitely an Asian alcohol. I don't completely remember, but he drank a lot of it. Like a lot. The main character, whose name is Roy, by the way, we hadn't even mentioned that the main character's name was Roy. Who he was ex-special ops or something like that. So he had very extensive combat training. Unlike like a Groundhog's Day situation where he was just a dude. But yeah, Ken Jeong. Hilarious man. My next note was from the same scene. He creeped the fuck out of Dave. What?
Baiju.
Baiju, okay. I just had the... I think I had most of the correct letters in there. I don't know, I'm dyslexic. I don't even remember what I said before. Anyway, he creeped the fuck out of Dave, who was another patron at the bar. Who was self-described tech genius. Security genius, more specifically. And Roy was sufficiently drunk and tired of Dave's story that he had already heard like 100 times. So he sat him down and told him about one of the previous times he had been murdered. Where he had been shot in the mouth and he thought he tasted steak, but what it was his tongue being cooked by the heat of the bullet.
I actually rewind when I watched that the first time. It was like I was just like mindlessly watching because of the story. And I was like, wait a minute, I need to rewind and watch it again, just make sure that I heard him properly.
Yeah, no, you heard him properly.
That was like one of my favorite scenes.
While Dave and Ken Jeong are both looking at this guy like, like, and at the end of the story, when Dave walks out, Ken Jeong is like, it says something to the effect of, you need help, man.
You're talking about going to Drinkers Anonymous?
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I'm glad they took the time to put that scene in there. Because it was hilarious. I mean, obviously it also sets up stuff or introduces characters that are essential later on in the movie.
Like Dave. Like Dave.
Exactly. Dave, believe it or not, ends up being essential to this film. Even though he was just the chatty, self-righteous tech guy at the bar. I don't know what he was doing at the bar on his lunch break, but, whatever. That's where he was.
Yeah.
Oh. And my next note was actually about Gemma, Naomi Watts' character. Because Roy, the main character, goes to her job. This is in a flashback to the previous day, before the loop started. And he brought his resume and they were having a conversation and she was super nervous and speaking in like hushed tones. And then toward the end, she was whispering stuff in his ear. so that the people behind her couldn't hear her. So my note was, she knew she was going to die? Question mark. Because at that point, I wasn't even sure if she was dead or not. So I was like, did she know something bad was going to happen to her? Like, was she already aware of this? But that's where you get introduced to Mel Gibson's character, Clive Venter, who is the person who owns the company that Gemma works for. She's the one who created this machine that puts Roy into the loop. The Osiris spindle. Yes. She's the one who invented it, and Mel Gibson's character is the one who was like funding the project. He was the boss. And he had his security detail and yada yada. So, yeah, my mouth is getting dry. Hang on, I need a drink. Root beer. Not sponsored by anything, but Jesus, please sponsor me. So, do you have anything you want to add while I die?
I mean, so I like how after like 140 some deaths, he finally is like, oh yeah, the birthday gift. And then it's like, as he's trying to read this book that explains the situation that he's currently in, he keeps on dying by some of the most rookie mistakes that he's already mastered.
Yeah.
Like
getting hit by the religious bus.
Getting into the wreck with the bus.
Every time he gets hit by that bus, it's such a funny... It's so funny.
And so it's like... In the back of my head, it's like, man, come on, you should... So you know this. Like, he's so focused on this book that he's like, oh... Did I die by this before? And then once he finally finds a good place to read, which is underground, he finally gets to see his son and gets to connect with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then he realizes that he's being tracked because he actually manages to live past like a minute or two after he's usually used to dying.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's when Dave becomes important.
Yes. I actually had a note. The interaction with the video game guy was perfect. The guy at the entrance.
It was perfect. It was perfect, but it was horrible.
But it was perfect. Here's this guy talking about his love for vintage video games. He asked him how old he was. He was 41, by the way. And he was asked if he had any kids, and he was like, no, I'm childless by choice. And Roy's like, by whose choice? It was a perfect example of the humor in that film. It was absolutely perfect, perfectly timed. It wasn't like over the top and exaggerated. It was perfect. And still fit into the tone of the film. Let's see, what's my next note here? The reference to Taken. There were actually quite a few references to Taken in this film. But he and his son actually talk about the movie. Yeah, I love that, because I love those movies. They're fucking phenomenal movies. Liam Neeson is amazing in pretty much everything he's in, but those are great movies. But I digress.
I like the homage too. It was nice, but
yes.
It was kind of like it almost makes you feel it's because it's a 2021 movie, which to the viewers, I don't know if y'all realize this, but like when I see a 2021 movie, I jump on it. And so
excuse me,
Jesus. It's like it makes it feel like this movie is in the same universe as our lives, which makes it cool for me.
Yeah. And they tend to, in the last couple of years, the movies that have been being made have done a lot of referencing of pop culture in the real world, regardless of what the setting of the film is. There have been a lot of references to pop culture in the real world, which has been amazing. I'm sorry, I've been sick for like the last week, but you know, the show must go on. So here we
are. You're sounding better. You're sounding better this week than you did last week.
Yes, I'm feeling a lot better today than I have throughout the last week as well. It's mostly just my nose, and I got some phlegm in the back of my throat. But other than that, I'm doing pretty all right actually. A lot better than I was. I also noted that the tracker in the tooth was neat.
So let's talk about Dave freaking before we get into that. So once he realized he's being tracked, Roy's like, I need a bottle of Baijiu and some pliers. The Lord knows how many teeth he pulled out before he finally found that tracker.
And he pulled them out he pulled them all out in front of Dave, who was screaming the whole time.
And then he just blatantly shoots himself. And I'm just like, he's just at that point. It's like, I can reset time. And I'm just like, oh my God, poor Dave.
At least poor Dave won't remember that.
That's true. But man, can you just imagine, right? Just imagine that you are Roy, right? So from that life on, every single time that he died, the first thing that he had to do in the morning was to pull that tooth.
Yup. So that they couldn't track him. What a great way to wake up, huh? Cool. You wake up to a dude trying to hack your head off with a machete, throw him in front of a helicopter that's got a minigun on it that's trying to murder you, finally get to a safe space, rip out a tooth.
Let's say this though. So I do think the tooth thing was cool. I like how he used it to get all the hired mercenaries.
Yep.
Which leads up to my favorite scene in the entire movie.
I think it was my favorite scene too. So he uses the tracker to lure them in because he realizes that's how they're tracking him. So he sets traps for them. I'm going to let you say what you had going now.
So the first person, I feel like this is both our favorite scene.
Yeah,
he traps Pam, who has this Luger with a silencer on it, and he's made a comment saying he's died by that like 13 times,
something like that.
100-some deaths, and he was like, he finally got the gun, and it's like, what was it? It was like AH. And he was like, AH? And she's like, yeah, as in Adolf Hitler. And the next thing that comes out of his mouth is like, "What? You've been killing me with Hitler's gun?" And she's just going off by all these facts: how it managed to get to America, how she was able to find it, who she got it from, how she bought the silencer, and he's just freaking out that he died by Hitler's gun. And she's like, "What? Are you going to kill me?" He's like, "No, I'm going to shoot you. Shoot her twice." She's dead, and then when she's on the ground, he shoots her 2 more times. He said, "That's for the Jews." I died.
Actually, if we're being more specific, he shot her the 2 times. She hit the ground. He said, "That's for the Jews." Then turned around, shot her 2 more times, and said, "That's also for the Jews."
Okay.
I also died of laughter. It was so funny. And this was happening in a sewer, by the way.
Here's Jellybean. She wanted to join the video.
Oh, hi, Jellybean. Oh, best scene in the movie by far.
Oh, you done? Okay.
Yeah, my note on that scene was simply Hitler's gun. That was good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was an absolutely perfect thing to put in there.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I just shut my door on my cat's tail. I feel so bad.
Shit.
Baby, come here. Yeah, I'm gonna go check on her in a little bit.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, and then he goes to break into the company, and he goes and he tries a couple of times. But one of the times there was a character there that looked exactly like him, who worked there. And he, throughout the whole film, referred to that character as Roy Number 2. And there was a scene when he was trying to get into the headquarters, where you see Roy Number 2 get in his car and drive off. And the narration is like, "There's Roy Number 2." And then you hear, like, squealing tires after the car goes off screen. You're squealing tires, a gunshot, and then Roy Number 2 is dead. That was really funny. But then he struggles with getting the elevator to work a few times. Eventually gets there, but then gets caught in front of the head of security. And what he does when he realizes he's cornered is just put a bullet in his own brain. And the head of security is like, he just like shrugs and he's like, "That was weird." And puts his gun away. I laughed really hard at that moment too. I'm so glad they put in that line instead of just cutting at the bullet and then cutting to next attempt. They lingered for the. That was weird.
I like how he eventually gives up and he starts spending more time with his son.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he starts learning all these little details about his son.
Yes, I did have a note in here about that. Yes. This movie. Okay. So, one thing that I have said recently about films is that I don't really like to watch films. Like, I don't like watching action films anymore. I'm getting bored of the action film. I want a nice narrative. I want a story. And this movie perfectly balances both, in my opinion. Because on the surface, it looks like just a goofy action film, basically. But it really does have a very, like, deep, emotional story to it. This movie actually I am also an extremely emotional individual, but this movie actually brought me to tears a couple of times. Because, you see this father who didn't get to know his son, and then now he's experiencing all this nonsense of dying over and over and over again, and he takes time, I think he said upwards of like a dozen days, just spending it with his son, to get to know his son. Because he doesn't really know what else to do, so he figures, you know what, I may as well just do this. So he does, and it was very, very touching. But I also did make a note, before I made my note about that. I wonder if Gwen Yin ever got sick of saying that. Shit, every time she kills him, she says her name. She's like, I am Gwen Yin. Gwen Yin did this. And you hear it probably like 24 times throughout the film.
I feel like okay, so in a movie character sense, I feel like it's just self-advertisement for her being a mercenary,
right?
In an actor's sense, I wonder how many times that she had to say that.
That's moreover what I was thinking. Was the actor, how many times, because you could tell each time that it happened in the film was a different recording. Like, it was an entirely different recording, because it looked different every time. She would say it slightly different, because, nobody can repeat anything perfectly over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very minute differences. And it's all shot from, like, different angles, and it's in different places. So the actress, every time you hear the film or hear the line in the film, it was another time the actress had to shoot that line. So I was wondering if the actress ever got sick, who, by the way, her name was Guan Yin. Guan Yin was the name of the character. Her name is Selena Lo. So I was wondering if Selena ever got sick of repeating that line. Because she'd have to do it a few times, just because that's how actors are. Like, you've got to shoot a scene several times to make sure you get it the one you want in there. So every time she shot the scene, she'd have to shoot probably at least 5 takes of the scene every time, and you hear her say it at least a dozen times in the film. So you're already looking at least 5 dozen shootings of saying the same line.
There was like 6 or 7 different scenes where she said it.
Yeah, but she said it like 6 times in one scene.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Where she just killed him back to back to back to back to back to back. And then he went and got sword fighting training. Because Guan Yin uses a sword, and he wanted to beat her at her own game, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when he finally does kill her, he says, I am Roy, and Roy did this. It was totally worth it.
I love how he planted the sword right into the security guard brain.
Right into his forehead.
So
and he was like walking around and talking. It's like, I don't feel so good.
He's like, do you smell that?
He's like, I smell muffins. Do you smell muffins? And he's like, no, alright, I'll just go walk it off. And then he tips backward and dies. It's so funny. That was good. That's right around where I forgot to keep taking notes.
I'm still got a few side notes. I got more side notes in my head near the end of the movie than I do anything else.
Yeah, the rest of my notes are all like right towards the end of the film as well. Like when he finds out that Gemma wasn't actually dead the night before, but was actually alive after he woke up, he realized he had 14 minutes to go through everything he had to do from the moment he woke up to get there in time to save her. Which
I like how he changed up the conversation he was having with his son after like dozens of times of having the same conversation, and he decided to change the conversation.
Yep.
And that's how he found out that she was still alive.
Yep. It was a moment on a park bench in front of the lake. He was just talking to his son, where normally because he was talking about how normally at this point his son was asleep.
And the world was...
Yes, the world was ending because the Osiris spindle, at the end of the day, destroys the world. Because, something is powerful, or something powerful enough to rewind time, eventually it's going to overload, and it's going to destroy everything. So, yeah, normally his son would have been asleep, but he wasn't, and they had a conversation about the kid, because the kid didn't know that his mom had died. So he was talking about wanting to take his mom on a boat ride, because she never goes anywhere. And he wanted to do something nice for her to help her get out and relax, which was already really sweet. But then he mentioned that his mom had actually called him that morning. And so Roy looked at the kid's phone, calculated how much time it was from the moment he woke up. Boom, speedrun time. It was time for the speedrun, which my note literally says, I love this speedrun. He wakes up, pretty much instantly murders Machete Guy, jumps out the window to grab onto the helicopter that's outside of his window, lobs himself in, and forces the helicopter pilot to take him to that company's headquarters. It was incredible.
Takes the man gun and kills all the mercenaries.
Yeah. Yeah. There was also a moment in there during that whole montage of him trying to break in, where he was in the orange car, which we hadn't even talked about that guy. The help, I'm being terrorized guy. Or tortured was the word. You'd have to watch the movie. You see him like 18 times. The main character always says the line with him. They look directly into the camera when they're both yelling the line. It's fantastic. So he's in this car, and his plan is to just go in brute force and take the place by storm because he was tired of all the subterfuge. So he gets up to what I'm only assuming is as top speed as he could possibly get at that point, and just hits a fucking concrete wall. And the head of security comes up and said exactly what had popped into my brain. Well, that was a good plan. And then blows his brains out. And then it immediately cuts to him in that car jumping over that wall.
And then the entire killing him. And then the entire security team killing him.
Yes. Trying to. He blew them up with the explosives in his trunk. Because I thought they were going to kill him. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh, shit, this is dumb. Now there's all these security people. All of the security's here. But then he hopped over the fence and blew up the car and all the security guards. I was like, oh, that was pretty good.
And then Brett kills him. And then Brett kills him.
Brett. Which one was Brett
The
again?
security guard.
I forgot
The
that
main
was his
security
name.
guy.
I forgot that was it. Oh yeah, he shot him in the back of the head. Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much toward the end of the movie. There's not a whole lot left after that. Eventually,
So I was gonna say, so yeah, literally just at the end of the movie, he just does this big speed run, jumps a helicopter, takes a minigun, kills everybody. Amazingly choreographed fight scene on the stairs. I might add.
Yes. I almost forgot. I was thinking while watching that I needed to say something about that, but I forgot to write it down because I was so into just watching the scene that I couldn't tear my eyes away to write something down. It was fucking beautiful, and it seemed seamless. Probably the best stairwell fighting scene I've ever seen in my life. But please continue.
Yeah, no, I was just going to talk about it, because there's really not much to talk about at that point. He stabs Brett in the balls with the sword and kills Mel Gibson. And they have this like really heartwarming moment where he talks about his son, and basically he has to enter the spindle to stop the process, but him stepping into the spindle will kill him. So basically, everything that he just did. Well, it knew it was going to kill him, but he was going to have to start over the next day again.
And he wouldn't get a second chance that time because it would reset the timeline. It would reset things to the way it was. So he'd have to wake up and do it all without dying, because if he dies again, it's permanent.
And I just thought that was like the best way in that movie.
Yeah, because you don't actually see him do it. You see him wake up the next morning, and he briefly said, he's like, just gotta do it without dying. Piece of cake. And then that's the end of the movie. That's that. You don't get to see if he actually succeeds on that attempt or not. I'm going to assume he does, because, he already did. So
there's no end credit like clip or anything.
No, I searched for it. I didn't wait because I was impatient. I didn't want to sit through the credits, so I scanned through them. There is no end credit scene. Yeah, my last note was it was actually a very touching story. Because really, at the end of the day, it was about a father getting to know his son. That's really, like, the base of this film, is a father getting to know his son. And getting to show his son's mother why he should be in his son's life. They had a conversation in the flashback to the previous day. I say conversation, it was more like a mini argument, where he wanted to be in his life, and she was questioning why. Like, you've already been gone all this time, why be there now? Why tell him that you're his father now? Like, he already knows you and adores you, so what's the point? But yeah, it was very touching. Very, very touching.
So, what would you rate it as, though?
Oh, it was really fucking good. Honestly, one of the best movies I've watched in a while. It was really good. I was not expecting something this high quality from a 2021 film, if I'm being 100% real. Like,
yeah, I mean, you were talking about earlier before us doing this, that you don't really pick action movies anymore.
Exactly. Because I more prefer something with a nice story. Like, give me something to pay attention to, make me feel something, connect me to the characters. I want something more story-driven excuse me, rather than like a Die Hard situation where there's a thin veil of story, but really all it is blowing shit up. But that's not what this movie was. This movie was like the perfect combination between both. Because it is a lot of violence, but there's also that very beautiful story underneath it all. That really isn't even underneath it. It's right in there with all of it. It's actually the main driving force of the character. The main character. It's not about the action for him. It's about saving his son. Like, making sure his son and his son's mother are safe. Like, that's the whole point. Because even when she tells him that if he goes into the core, he will die, the first thing to come out of his mouth is, but it'll keep you and him safe. I forgot the kid's name, but that was the first thing to come out of his mouth, was asking her if it meant that they would be safe. And when she said yes, he just did it. Like, no hesitation. So that was his driving force the whole time. And I liked that. It was more emotional than most movies of this variety.
I think what got me jumped in the spindle, he said, well, give me a kiss and tell me you love me.
Yeah, yes.
And I started crying just a little bit. I was like...
I did too. I choked up a little bit at that one. Yeah. It was really good. It was a fantastic film. Let's see. An overall rating. I'd probably give this, like... Man, I keep wanting to say 8, but I feel like that's not quite high enough. This was really good. It kept me entertained the entire time. Which a lot of modern media has not been capable of doing. So, I'm actually, honestly, I'm going to give it a 9. 9 out of 10. A solid 9 out of 10.
I'll say a solid 9, and the only reason that I do not make it a 10 is that I feel like the mercenaries, like everything that happened with the mercenaries, I feel like it could have been, I mean, keep it to the same number of how many mercenaries there were, but I feel like that could have been expanded just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say that there wasn't much of them in there, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more.
There were some that didn't really have a whole lot of context to them. Namely the twins, helicopter dude, and I mean, I feel like Mohawk guy was just kind of a throwaway. Yeah,
he was. I think you only really saw him like once or twice.
You saw him every single time that he was in that like first scene where he like dies, but that's about it.
Yeah, you don't see him
like
all that often.
Whatever it is, like at one point he just gives up and he just lets the machete guy kill him like several days in a row.
Yeah. Ow. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that was after the first time he tried to save Gemma, but failed. I believe. Or was it when he found out that she was dead? Or thought he found out she was dead?
She found out he was dead and he thought he couldn't do nothing about it.
Yeah, it was one of... Yeah, it was that one. Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good movie. It was really solid. Definitely worth a watch. It is on Hulu, for those who are interested in going and watching it for themselves. It is on Hulu. This is a movie that I definitely would recommend. I mean, I just gave it a 9 out of 10, so of course I would recommend it.
You just watched it today.
Yes, I did. I did just watch it today. It was really good. It was actually a great way to start my day, if I'm honest. There was a lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of murder, a lot of teeth being ripped out, talking about tongues being cooked, and a lot of stabbing in the balls with a sword.
a lot of head chopping.
Yes, a lot of head chopping. Pretty solid graphically too. Like it was pretty solid head chopping. Yeah, it was pretty good. There was a scene in there that made me laugh. It was Mel Gibson when it was like the first time that Roy talks with Mel Gibson in the film. Obviously, he talks about how this has happened a few times. But there, toward the end there, before just after Mel Gibson's character lobs off his head, with Guan Yin's sword, he's talking about the sword. He's like, "Is this a katana?" And she's like, "A katana is a Japanese blade. This is a Chinese blade." And he's like, "Yeah. Let's not bring race into this," which I thought was hilarious, given it was Mel Gibson who was saying it. But you know,
let's not get it.
it's a whole another can of worms. That would be something I'd be more likely to go cover on my second channel.
So, I don't have anything else to say about the movie, unless
I don't think I have anything else to say about the movie either.
I know, so announcement time. I know that...
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
I know you have quite a few things going on in your life right now, and I know I have quite a few things going on in my life right now.
I do have quite a few things going on. Some of the things that I have going on, you also have going on. So we've both obviously have our individual projects going on, but we also have some things that we're working together on. I have been streaming, well, except when I'm sick, obviously, because my voice wasn't working properly. Streaming more consistently over on Twitch, so if you want to go on over and catch us live over on twitch.tv/JuicyJConfirmed, you can catch us live over there pretty much most days when I'm healthy. When my voice is functioning. You can catch me live over there. I will stream some single-player games, also some multiplayer games. I streamed Muck the other day with a handful of people. That was quite a bit of fun. It was good. It's a good time. Other than that, it's mostly...
And game sharing now, so now you have a lot more options for content.
We're also game sharing on Xbox, so as soon as I actually get a capture card, I will be recording more Xbox games as well, because I will be able to do so in higher quality with less latency issues, and it'll be brilliant. So we'll be able to get back to and finish our playthroughs of Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk 2077, which will be fun. I'm really into doing that, along with many other games, because combined we own like 300 games on Xbox, so...
Once there's more. Once he does that, I will actually be getting Resident Evil Village. Yes. And we'll be doing content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The game looks incredible. So yeah, that's the thing that's going on. I've just been doing a lot of writing as well. Been thinking about stuff for Jamie's game that Thaniel and I have both been helping work on. We've been doing a lot of the lore creation. This man, by the way, okay, this man over here on that side of your screen is fantastic at just coming up with creatures. Like, he's created most of the wildlife that exists for this game so far. Most of it is his brainchild. So, he's an extremely creative individual over there. So we will definitely be talking about creative projects that we've both been working on. Because we are also in the very, very, or very, very, very early stages of writing a TV show. So we'll see how that one goes.
I feel like we should do a podcast on that one day.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We could start our fucking podcast finally. Yeah, and then Thaniel has a bunch of stuff going on over there that he can tell you guys about now.
I do. So, after 9 years of having my Xbox gamer tag as DB94Bullet, you want to add me, you can. However, we're changing that to Hollow94Bullet because if you want to add me on TikTok, and I'll get John to put my link in the bio or in the description
there
for my TikTok. But yeah, yo, I'm on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And doing pretty good at it, actually. I roughly have like 2,270 followers right now.
Something like that. Yeah, I even downloaded TikTok just to watch this man's videos. And they're pretty good. They're good. He's creating some good content over there, so you guys should definitely go check that out. The link will be in the description.
And this mask.
That mask is beautiful, by the way.
Oh yeah, it is my bread and butter. But yeah, no, just I own a ring light now that I've been using this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fantastic. But
yes,
yeah, no, there's a lot of fun new things going on with me and John.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, recommendations are appreciated for movies that we may review in the future. So if you would like for us to review a specific movie, you can go ahead and put it in the description, in the comments. You can go ahead and comment titles of videos. All we need is the title. All I want from you, if you would like to recommend a video or a list of videos, as people have done in the past, the name of the video, the year it came out, and the platforms that it's available on. It would be greatly appreciated. You could just put the names of the movies. It's just a lot easier for us if you put also the year it was made and the platform that it's available on. So it'd be very much appreciated.
I mean, if anything, I'll do the legwork.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can. It just, like I said, it makes it a little easier on us. Because I also like to look at who's in the movie. And I have a really hard time sometimes with Googling things. I get distracted really easily. So if I know exactly what I'm looking for, I'm more likely to actually find it.
Don't forget, we do keep a list. We do keep track of movies that you guys have already requested. So it really, depending on what we do, is really just depending on what the mood is at the moment.
Yes. As far as I know, this movie was not on the list, but we will get around to all the movies on the list.
We're definitely going to be doing a Sean Connery film. Let's do a Sean Connery film next.
Yes, we need to discuss which one we want to watch.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes. But, exactly. That was my point. So yeah, I guess it's time to end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Huh?
Sneak peek my tattoos.
Oh, I thought you had one last thing you wanted to add.
That's right.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button. Nobody cares. Subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, we will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.